And there we go.
Welcome. Good evening. We are in for a treat this evening with tonight's guest. Welcome back to the Band of Badgers channel. You know where you are because you're watching us. We all. I'm just trying to fill the bits where you tell me we've got sound and vision and the stream's working.
Oh yeah. Oh, sorry, that's my job now, is it? Yeah.
Yes, it
Sorry,
is.
I'm co-host.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah.
We are live and we have sound apparently.
Lovely, thank you very much. Okay, so welcome to Band of Badgers, and this evening we have our guest Andrew GASKA, and I'll read a little bit about Andrew GASKA in a moment. You will see some of his bio popping up in chat every now and again, as well as a link off to the Free League page. To the Heart of Darkness pre-order, which is one of the things we're going to talk to Andrew about this evening. But first off, welcome to Badgers. As I was saying, you can catch us here at Twitch. You can also catch us on YouTube, and there will be some links to our YouTube channel going up. We've recently hit 1,000 followers on Twitch, and it'd be good to get that on YouTube as well. So please head over to YouTube whenever you can and click the subscribe button and the bell icon. We do upload regularly. We do quite a few of these interview type programs as well as our regular tabletop streams. So if that's your thing, head over to YouTube and subscribe. So I am your host this evening, unusual, I know, so this must be a sci-fi stream. David's let me out of the box. He's given me free reign, so we'll see how it goes.
It just gives me a night off, Steve. That's what it is.
It does give you a night off, yes. And of course, my co-host for this evening is David. David will be collecting questions for Andrew from chat and interrupting me whenever possible
Every
to
time,
ask
always.
those questions. And he'll get to do all the administration and keep me under control instead of roles being reversed from what they normally are. And to our guest, so I'm going to read this bio because it is quite long, not because I doubt this person is self-advertising. It's just this person has a lot of experience in the gaming industry and deserves what I'm going to read out. So he is a 2021 ENnie and UKGE Award-winning settings and adventure writer for Free League Publishing's Alien role-playing game. So that is the Destroyer of Worlds, which was the scenario that was released last year. I have a copy here. Scenario released last year, and that won the UKGE Award for Best Way to Die. And I think they were describing the queue to pick it up at the Free League stand during UKGE last year. He's also narrative director, designer, and sci-fi author. Over 20 years of industry experience. He's a lead writer for Nightfall Games' Terminator role-playing game, which went on Kickstarter last year, I believe, or maybe the year before. Because of COVID, I tend to get 20 to 21 completely confused in the way around.
We were in blurred years, yeah.
We are blurred years, yes. And also creative director of Magnetic Press's WEG Carbon Grey role-playing game. So outside of gaming, his prose, graphic novel, and franchise consultant for works include Predator, Planet of the Apes, Buck Rogers, and Choose Your Own Adventure games. He also holds the canon Bible for Planet of the Apes, Predator, and the Alien IP for Fox Studios, and also worked for Rockstar Games on the Grand Theft Auto and Red Dead Redemption IPs. So, I mean, Andrew, you probably are to me the king of popular culture.
Hardly. I'm stubborn, so I've stuck at trying to get these things to happen, and I've also had a little bit of luck in that. So it's not easy getting these jobs, but I'll be completely honest with you. Despite the stuff that I'd done before, and it wasn't until Alien that I started getting the recognition for all the stuff I've done before. So there's a big story there, and I'm sure we'll get to it. But
I'm going to start off. I'm going to ask how you got into writing and stuff like that. But clearly you have a passion for writing. So I'm going to flip it. What was the first bit of writing that you did you got paid for, and how did you get that job?
Oof. That I got paid for. Okay, so this is a little weird. Okay, because my earlier published stuff, I formed my own company and I got the licensing for Planet of the Apes and Space Hunting on my own, so I didn't get paid for that. So the first thing I actually got paid was an issue of Hawken, which was based on that video game, and that was in 2013. It was the first time I got paid to write. So it's perspective here. I had already done my original Critical Millennium graphic novel, a bunch of Space 1999 stuff, and the Conspiracy of Planet of the Apes, the first Buck Rogers novel, all that stuff I'd done already, and it was all under my banner, Blam Ventures, because that was like, okay, I'm going to try and do what I really want to do. And so I put a ton of money out into that stuff, and in a lot of cases I didn't even see money back. It's like I paid all the artists that worked in the Conspiracy Planet of the Apes book, because it was an illustrated novel. It had 40 paintings from top talent in the industry. Jim Steranko did the cover. I mean, it's great talent. I put 40 grand into making that book happen. And because of what happened with the publisher, it's a long story, which I won't even get into, I didn't really see anything back on that. But that book started my career, so it's like, well, I spent all this money to go to college. And it was investment. I look at this book the same way, as because overnight my name was connected to all these brilliant artists, and it was a no property. And I got a call 2 years later, after that first book had come out, from Fox saying, hey, it's clear you know our property better than we do in regards to Planet of the Apes. Do you want to come on as a consultant? And I was like, who says no to that? So, so that book is responsible for everywhere, because I wouldn't have gotten to Alien if I hadn't done that. I wouldn't have gotten to Predator, wouldn't have gotten to all these things. So, I worked for Rockstar Games. Well, first of all, I went to college for art. I was going to be an artist, not a writer. I went to the School of Visual Arts in Manhattan. And when I was in high school, I was the best artist at my high school. Everybody like, that guy's going to go on to be a great artist. And I went to art school where everybody who went there was the best artist from their high school. so now it's like, oh, now we're being judged on a different level here. And I started to realize I couldn't get what I saw in my head. I couldn't get it on paper with a pencil. It just wasn't happening. And it was very frustrating. And I had a lot of comics greats as my teachers. I had Carmine Infantino as my layout teacher. He created The Flash and Batgirl, for anyone who doesn't know. He also worked on Star Wars in the 70s, the comic. I had Walt Simonson, who's known for his work on Thor. He was my graphic novel teacher. Joe Orlando from Mad Magazine was my portfolio teacher. Klaus Janson was my inking teacher. And I had Denny O'Neil for writing. We were required to take a writing for comics class. Denny O'Neil was in charge of Batman for 15 years. He's pretty much responsible for the version of Batman we know now, the more realistic version after the Adam West fiasco, which is fun, of course. But, and Denny saw a talent in me with the writing that he kept urging me, this is where you need to go. And my parents ran out of money and couldn't send me to school anymore. And so I told him I was embarrassed because I really, loved his class. I had taken his class 3 times at that point, but we did different script every semester. And I said, I just want to let you know I won't be back next semester. It's not a slight to you. We just don't have money anymore. And he's like, well, that's unacceptable. I'm going to privately tutor you. Wow. And I was like, I can't afford that. He's like, no, I'm going to take you out to lunch on DC Comics credit card. And we're going to work on a couple of scripts to put in the drawer over at DC. I don't know if you know what that term means, but if a creative team is behind and they need to have a monthly book, they have scripts in the drawer, which are like, hey, he's not going to make it. Pull this script out and have somebody draw it. And this way we have a issue. That's why suddenly in the middle of a storyline, you're like, what is this fill-in story?
You get the fill-in.
That's what that was. So I had a Catwoman script that sat in the drawer at DC for a long time, and it never got used, but that was all because of Denny. And I realized that writing is where I needed to go. Right. But trying to do this stuff, I wound up going back to school on my own money after a couple of years. And I was a pharmacy tech, I was a limo driver, I worked in a photocopy center, whatever job I could get while still trying to pursue this stuff. And eventually I started doing freelance work for Rockstar Games, which brought me a lot of money. And from there, I went into a comic shop and saw a new Planet of the Apes comic on the shelf. And I said, oh, who's putting out new Planet of the Apes? Is this Marvel? Is this DC? And it was somebody called Mr. Comics. And I was like, if Mr. Bleepin Comics can get a license, why can't I?
Yeah.
And I hired an entertainment lawyer, and that's when I started going after things and wound up with Space 1999 Planet of the Apes. So it's not, my story is not the typical story. My story is saying, hey, wait a minute, why can't I do this?
Mm-hmm.
And pushing it, after I had money to do it with. The money from Rockstar was a lot more than, your normal, what you expect to get paying, I guess, because they went up, I was paid per job, and they wind up, I was doubling the amount of money I was taking home every year with them. And so I had to open up a studio and train my friends to work on the stuff with me. And, so it was a success, but it wasn't what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry if I went off on a tangent, but
no, that's fine. There's a lot in there.
We get a lot of questions. So people have sent in a bunch of questions, and normally we try to filter them down. But there's a lot of questions about how you get started, whether it was education, luck. Did you, like as you just said, you as an artist, and through doing that, the people you've met, suddenly writing is the way to go. And which is, a lot of people have that moment, and you've had that moment which says, okay, I'm not the artist, I'm the writer, which is still massively creative. And then you say you've just by pure luck, you was in the right place at the right time to go, okay, look, there's the comic.
Yeah.
And based on that decision, you've turned into, you turn a corridor and go, okay, well, let's try this. And then even if, Space 1999 was massive here in the UK.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
It
really was.
It's so funny with that license, because of those earlier years, the only things I ever actually saw any royalty checks on was Space 1999.
Wow.
And everyone was like, what the hell is Space 1999? So, and then years later, ITV wanted us to do it again. And I couldn't find a publisher who'd put it out, because they're like, oh, it's not going to be, I'm like, we made money last time, guys. It's this weird thing that it's a much better license than I think people think. But it's like, even with Alien, like, I was told by Fox at the time, listen, we love working with you. If you can find some licensing category that is not already taken and find a company who wants to pick it up, we'll recommend you as the writer for it. Okay. So I shopped Alien as a role-playing game around for 2 years. And every company I talked to said, oh, it's a one-hit wonder. What are you going to do? It's the Alien. Everybody knows. Oh, big surprise. The Alien. It's going to come out of your chest. Oh, well. And it took me 2 years to find somebody who wanted to do this. And I guess those people who turned it down probably feel stupid now, because it's been super successful.
Yep.
I was like, there's so much more to do here with the 40 years of stuff that's just, in comics and everything. It's like, there's this mythology and lore to shift through here. And there's a way to make it so that readers who don't like a particular thing can pretend that that's a rumor instead. And, I drew upon all that to put the universe together in a coherent fashion. And it's proven to have a lot. And I'm watching this video of me, and I talk with my hands a lot. I just realized.
I do exactly the same thing. I have to keep my pointy stick. That keeps me grounded. And what you said there makes a lot of sense. I actually buy for myself, my own personal interest. I buy lots and lots of role-playing games, books, and I read them as you would read a book. Because in my head, I've got my friends who always play their characters, and I know what they're going to do. It's like, what would this adventure look like in my head with their characters? And I'm just reading books. And I that's to say that you struggle to sell the concept of Alien, when so many people have, like we were talking about this before we went on air, we've grown up with this. It's what we still talk about. It's those memories we had growing up as kids, as teenagers, going, yeah, do you remember that scene on this? Do you remember this bit? Do you remember that bit? Because when we were there, it would be playing out in the street on your bike or watching a film. Someone had a copy of a film. And then you'd all go over to your mate's house and be like, wow, we'll watch it.
On VHS.
VHS, yeah. And it'll be great. And it doesn't matter. It's the same thing as, like, they say, no, it's a one-hit wonder. No, that's why we rewatch films or reread books, because they're that good. That's why.
The thing is that in their defense, I could easily see how Alien could turn into a one-trick pony. If it were like, okay, you're on a ship and there's an alien And then the next adventure, you're on a ship and there's an alien. Oh, now you're on a planet and there's an alien. Now you're in a prison and there's an alien. Like, you had to draw upon everything else. And I broadened the term alien in my head to mean anything that we don't understand and is unknown. And that could be a black hole, or that could be the Union of Progressive Peoples, the culture that we don't understand, that we feel like is our enemy, but really there's people with the same type of problems who just have a different government system that they may or may not even agree with. So it's what is really alien, and it's what we don't understand and don't know. And looking at it from that way, I determined I'll make sure we would never, as long as I have anything to say with it, never explain everything about the alien. The alien, if you watch the first movie, and it's because of the limitations of the costume, it's like it comes down and stands in the hall and does something weird with its arms, and you're like, what the hell is it doing? What is that pose it's in? It's frightening because it doesn't make sense. And it was all because it was interpretive dance type poses and stuff, because they couldn't get the rubber costume to do what they wanted to do. Like, they originally wanted to be much more animalistic. If you look at the script, there's this one scene where Dallas is going through the ventilation shafts with the flamethrower, and it's described as the thing being up by the turbines, and then it leaps down the thing and attacks him like a tiger. Okay, but in the actual film, he looks at the flashlight, turns around, the thing's right behind him, and it goes jazz hands. There's something scarier to me about the jazz hands than it would be about the tiger, because you're like, what the hell is that thing?
You've just stuck that moment in my head now. Every time I'm going to watch it, it's going to jazz hands.
The limitations made it weird, made it alien, and I try to evoke that in what I'm writing in the game. One of the strengths I think I do have as a writer, because I've been told this many times, is that my writing's visual. Like, I can see what you're describing in my head because of the way you're describing it so clearly. And I think that's from my artistic background. I think I have a benefit there that someone else might not have.
Do you think you've always applied that comic book thought process to it then?
Yeah. I mean, I didn't intend to be writing prose or games. It's like I wrote role-playing games. For 22 years, I was a game master on my own, just never expecting that was going to be anything to do with my career. But I loved it. And I went to school, and was taught by Denny, and thought I'm going to go into comics. And with the Planet of the Apes thing, it's funny because the license was ending with Mr. Comics for Planet of the Apes. And I thought I was going to get a comics license from them, from 20th Century Fox. And I had been courting them for a while, and me and my entertainment lawyer went to licensing expo with them. And when we all sat down, they were disgruntled about what had happened with the Mr. Comics situation, because they did not get a trade paperback, which they were promised. Okay. So as soon as I started talking, the licensor said, oh, wait a minute, this is about comics? We don't want to do comics again for anytime soon, because we're just not happy with the way that turned out. And I'm like, oh crap. I've been planning on trying to do this the whole time. So I said, well, when I say comics, I mean like prose with paintings, I'm totally pulling this out of my ass. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that here or not. Okay. I mean like prose with paintings, and I'm like, sort of like that Aliens Tribes book that came out from Dark Horse years ago. And the woman says, Aliens Tribes is the favorite project I've ever worked on in licensing. You have your license. I'm like, totally pulled out of my ass. And thank God, and I was like, now I have to learn how to write prose, because I had no idea. I never planned to do it. And, that was frightening, because I'm like, I read novels all the time, but I never was trained to write a novel. And now I have to think about, instead of describing to the artist what to draw, I have to describe it to the reader, which means it has to be much more eloquent, and can't say things like, like Arnold Schwarzenegger on a bad day. I can't say things like that in the novel, which you can say in a comic panel description that no one's going to read but the guy drawing it. Nothing against Arnold Schwarzenegger. So, so it was a process that I was terrified, and luckily, I guess I was okay at it. I think the work I've done since then is much better than what that novel was, but people seem to like that novel. So it's all been maybe this, and when it got to the alien thing, I was supposed to just write the settings and the tone. So I was going to write all the history and background stuff, describe the alien, all that stuff, and then in the rule section, I'll punch it up. Like you'll see that there's something that says in the vehicle section, there's a little thing that says, "Hey, just be careful, see whatever's making the banging inside your trunk or something like that." Little BS things like that make the rules sound a little more fun. Yeah. Tone. So whoever was supposed to write the adventure, Chariot of Gods, I don't know if they bowed out or were let go. I don't know what the deal is with that, but suddenly they said, "Hey, do you want to do it?" And I was like, well, I wrote the stuff for my own GMing for 22 years. So yeah, I'd love to give it a shot. And the first thing I did when I got my hands on the concept they wanted for it, I was like, okay, this is too much like Alien. And it could be that one trick pony if we don't play with it. So I suggested making changes where we make people feel like, oh, this is going to be Alien. But the threat isn't the alien, it's something else that's there. And it's a what? Wait, what? Now I'm confused. Now I'm scared because I don't know what I'm facing. And that's why Chariot of Gods is the way it is. And people who haven't actually experienced it are like, wait, this isn't Alien. But it is. And I made it more Alien for you because once your players get in there, all expectations are gone.
I've loved so reading Chariot of Gods all the way through, and I've GM'd that one as well. So I built so one of my table games. We played it in person. I put all the kit out, and we had some great scenes in that game. We never finished it. Everyone died, but we had some great scenes where one of the
common theme.
Exactly. We had I'll quickly as quick as I can. I'll say it. So we had one of them was an engineer. And she had to fix something in the reactor. So we said, okay, this is it. It's got one of those kind of bulk doors with a window. You're going to go in and you're hammering this pipe with a wrench. Or, you're fixing things. You're doing engineering stuff. She goes, right. And I said, and she goes, oh, I'm going to put my headphones on because that's what I do under my helmet. And I'm going to listen to Britney Spears. I was like, all right then, fine. In the meantime, in the other room, the connecting chamber room, the alien pops up. There's 3 people in there. You've got the captain. This is the room where there's a bit of rubble or like a nest on the floor, and he goes in, he sticks his head in basically. The alien grabs him, does a dice roll, it's a crit, picks him up by the head, crushes his skull, instant kill. The other 2 in the room, one is the company man, and the other one I think it was the pilot. The company man who's got his card sidesteps out the room. And as the door closes, the pilot sees what's going on, runs towards him, and he goes, locks him in. Meanwhile, the cinematic view that everyone's seeing, as the camera pans around to the engineer, like bam, 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 like Britney Spears is playing, all you can see is this alien hammering this guy into the plexiglass until his head collapses. And she's like, yep, fixing that. And by the time the company man kind of runs away, he goes after the escape pod. She comes out, it's like, why is everyone dead? What happened? Oh my gosh. And then they have this fight. And it was an amazing scene, but something like that, as you was talking about Alien, it's not necessarily one trick pony. It's not about the alien, it's about the humans.
Yes.
Because you're role-playing, you're playing these parts. You have a company man who is bound to...
Stab you in the back.
Yeah. Who is going to do you on over. Or... spoilers, the one of you could be an android. Yeah. And that comes out of secret as well. He's just like, okay, and we're all going to play this game, guys. We're going to have some fun. By the way, you've got this secret card. You've got this secret card. It's great. Absolutely love it. And Steve knows all this. The stress element is a fundamental part of that game. And
absolutely.
When you never played stress before and you start playing, you're like, okay, this is a bit strange. You go a few rounds, when that stress starts working against you, then you realise you're in trouble. That's the big opener on the game for me. That was like, wow. I mean, I'm in trouble now.
When I first came aboard with Free League to do this, I gave them basically, I think we need to concentrate on this, and this. It was a suggestion thing. Okay, the same thing I would do when I was working for Fox as a consultant on that. And now Disney. But and one of the things I put in there is that I think we need some kind of mechanic or something for post-traumatic stress disorder. And I have no idea to this day. And I keep forgetting to ask, and I probably won't be until I see him in person again. But I have no idea if they already had that in mind, or if they were inspired by what I said. But I think they probably already had that in mind, because I think from the beginning it's been clear that their vision of how this has to look and mine, it just sort of synced. It was like we both understood Alien. They weren't picking up Alien just because it was a cash grab. They care about Alien over at Free League. So, and that's a pleasure to work with somebody you don't have to fight about that with. So it's I guess what I'm saying is that it's just great to be working with people who get it, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Did they give you complete creative freedom on the scenarios? On the three?
Well, no, they don't give me complete creative freedom. I mean, like, there'll be times where they're like, where are you going with this? Get rid of this. And in hindsight, they're right, because I write way too much. And it's like, I look at some things they'll say and I'm like, that little thing probably could be its own adventure on its own. So why am I jamming it into this? My plus and minus with this stuff is that I write for the asshole who's going to go east when you need them to go west.
Yep. We played with them.
So I'm like, well, what if a guy's going to do that? And what if a guy's going to do that? And I know some schmuck's going to do that. And I write all that, and they're like, the thing is 3 times the size it was supposed to be. And I'm like, all right, I'm sorry. But a lot of that has come in handy also because people who have played it, like Destroyer, I've heard has been played by the same group 5 times, and it was different, completely different each time, because there's lots of options there. So there's a balance between overdoing it and making sure you have lots of ways to handle things. And it baffles me that there's like, I mean, there's some people from the D&D crowd who just haven't been able to grasp how this works, because they're so attached to their character as, no, this is me and I'm a hero, and then like they're slaughtered in 2 seconds, and because that's not what Alien's about. It's about trying to survive and playing in this fucked up world that it is. Again, I hope I can say that. So it's a very different gaming experience. Like Call of Cthulhu is a very different gaming experience than Dungeons and Dragons, but it should be. There's no way an Alien game should feel like Dungeons and Dragons. That's not true to what Alien is. And I wouldn't want a Star Wars game to feel like Alien. It's, can you have creepy horror elements in Star Wars? Yes, but we don't need, guts flying all over the place in Star Wars or anything like that. We just need to imply that Anakin slaughters a whole bunch of younglings with his lightsaber. But it's implied instead, so it's this is the key to me. Is like, I don't really understand, I guess, the appeal of completely generic game systems. I think that even if you're starting with a generic thing, like Free League uses the core of their system for everything, but they have these unique elements, like the Coriolis has something different than Alien does, which makes it, this is now totally what Alien's about, even though the core rules are similar. You know what I mean? You have to have that element, and that's one of the things I was doing over at with the West End game stuff for doing Magnetic. Each of the properties, we're identifying what makes this signature, and we're adding extra rules that make it, oh, I'm definitely experiencing this and not just playing a generic West End rule system. Rules need to be the stress rules, the agendas. This stuff is so core to what Alien is, and it's brilliant. And I did not come up with the agendas. I write a lot of the agendas, but the idea was definitely not mine. It was Thomas's. So
right. Because the story cards was a new addition that went into Destroyer Worlds as well. Was that one of Thomas's creations?
Yeah, well, they told me, you got to do story cards now. I was like, what the hell's a story card? When they explained to me, I was like, okay. And then I figured out how to do it. But it's just like, those decisions are not, I don't, and this is the thing with Fox as a consultant too. It's like, I don't run anything. It never was that. Okay, I don't have a desk, and I don't sit up my feet up in a cigar and say, we're gonna do an Alien this day. It's nothing like that. It's me saying, hey, I think we should do this. and they look it over and say, yeah, that sounds good, or they say, oh no, that doesn't work because of this, and then I give them an alternative description. And it happens with Free League, and it happens with Fox and Disney too, you know, with suggestions on how to proceed with an Alien product. You know, and one of my passions has been trying to unify expanded universes, so that, like, I don't know if you saw the novels that Titan's putting out. The next few novels have a Free League adventure in it that I've written. I didn't write the novels though, but it spins out of the events and it fits into our timeline of what we've been doing. I worked with Cold Iron. Oh my gosh!
Press.
Yeah, whoever Alien Fire Team. It's Cold Iron, right?
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay, I Cold Forge is the Alien novel. Yeah, okay. We'll fix that. Fix it in post. There is no post. All right. Regardless, my point is, I worked with them on Aliens Fire Team Elite.
Yeah. To
sync up what they wanted to do, because their stuff takes place 20 years after where we are at in the game. Yeah. So they said, we want the UA to be like this at this time. We want this. And I worked into the Colonial Marine books ways to make that make sense, so that their setup was there for them. So people won't be like, why is this suddenly like this? Well, buy the Colonial Marine book and you'll see what's going on that causes that. You know, and they even mentioned events that happen in the campaign for the Colonial Marine book. They mentioned the general that's responsible for stuff. They mentioned her in the game in Fireteam Elite. 20 years ago, this general did X, Y, Z. You know, so it's becoming this thing now, where someone will mention something in a novel about the Marine team that did this on planet so-and-so, and you're like, hey, they're talking about me because I played Destroyer Worlds. Yeah. You know, it's a more immersive experience.
It is, and you get that thrill whenever something like that happens. So we've played Fireteam Elite.
Yeah, loved it.
And it is good. And those little snippets, you just think, you often read it the first time and you don't get it, and it's only when you go back and you suddenly go, oh, and it's that moment that's hard to recreate, and it's great when it happens. We have had a couple of questions in, so I'm gonna quickly read those. So, question from Walrus Musket. I know in Destroyer Worlds, I'm gonna pronounce this horribly, so I apologize in advance. Zemeski was based on someone's grandfather. I can't recall the exact details, but are there other characters you've written in the other scenarios also based on people from your life? And if so, what's the inspiration behind them, and which was your favourite to go? What was your favourite to throw into this game? So we're obviously going to talk about the
this is my favorite.
Feline, we were talking about this before we went on air, which is a great piece.
So there is. So for those of you that don't have Heart of Darkness, there is a pre-order link in chat. If you pre-order it, you get a copy of the PDF that you can have now. So I probably pre-ordered it last week when it came out, and I have read it. And I read this bit about this cat called Adrien. I thought, this is a strange name for a cat. And spoiler, you can play the cat in Heart of Darkness. If your character dies, the cat NPC can be given to your player to use. And it was only earlier on today when I was reading Andrew's bio on the internet that I made the link, so I'm not going to spoil it. Do you want to explain, Andrew, what the link is?
This beast that's in my lap is the cat that you play in the game. What do you call it? I mean, he's my inspiration. He's been sitting behind me in most of my interviews. This cat, I wasn't married, but I like to tell people without giving details that the cat chose me in the divorce. He was named Adrian because my ex-girlfriend named him after Adrien Brody.
So I asked that question as well because Adrien Brody's in Predators.
Yeah. So she just liked Adrien Brody. So, but I've been wanting to have a playable cat thing going on in Alien since it first started. But it was one of the things that was like, there's too much in the core book already. That core book was supposed to be 300 pages and it's 400 and something pages because I wouldn't stop writing. So, it was one of the things that got cut. And then the opportunity came to put the cat in this, that they thought it would be a fun idea. And I sent them photos of my cat, and they painted up my cat for the stuff. So
just for everyone who's viewing this, that's the cat that we have in the artwork. Yeah, that's, there you go. So that's the cat painted, and you can see what it's holding in its mouth.
And there's a story we discussed about that. I had cats when I was a kid. I used to have outdoor cats. Adrien is an indoor cat only, but I have outdoor cats, and to be appreciative, the cat would bring you something that was dead. But most of the time, it wasn't dead. It was playing dead. so it'd bring you this thing and put it down in front of you inside the house, and you're like, what the hell is that? And suddenly this cicada or something was buzzing around the house. You're like, oh my God. So yeah, that was the inspiration for that stuff was.
I'm just horrified by again, we were talking about this before we went live. I'm horrified by this artwork because after he told the story, I was like, you mean it's still alive?
I didn't say that. I said it could be still alive.
Well, I mean, I'm not gonna spoil it. I won't tell you the rest of the blurb underneath it. But that feeds into what Andrew's been saying about that particular possibly live thing in the cat's mouth. So when I see things like that, my mind then goes shooting off into all these other directions about possible Easter eggs that you could have included in your writing.
There's stuff everywhere.
Because it's the name of the space station that you end up going to in Outer Darkness is the Erebos, and I believe that's Shackleton's second ship when he tried to cross the Northwest Passage. So it was the Terror.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
The Erebos was the second ship that was in Shackleton's fleet when he tried to cross the Northwest Passage to go from the east-west, and his flagship was the Terror. So I don't know if there was some sort of just nod there that it was a this is a horror game as if it was
well, I think it's I think when I did my research also I saw something about it meaning something like at the doorway to hell or something like that. So right. And the name that black hole's name is means to drain in German, and I like putting fun stuff like that in there. About the name is Smiewski, and not I don't know how you pronounce it, but usually people say Zimajewski, and it's my mother's maiden name. And it was telemarketers when I was a kid call, and they would try to figure out how the hell to say her name. And it was always a train wreck. So that's why I thought, wouldn't it be fun to see players making a train wreck of this name at the table when they're trying to figure out how to say it. And my grandfather had this thing with his belt, which he wouldn't hit the kids, his kids, meaning my mother and father and my mother and uncle and stuff. But he used to, when you're in trouble, you smell the belt. And if you say you can smell it, that means you respect him. And if you say I don't smell anything, then you were going to get punished. So a crazy guy with a belt, and I love my grandfather. I was like, this is a character right here. I don't even have to write this guy. I'm putting him in. My grandfather died. He was 90, I think, maybe 91, about 10 years ago. So, it was my way of honoring him to put him in there.
Yeah.
There's fans.
That's nice. Yeah.
Thank you. There's fans who've asked to be, hey, can you put me there and brutally kill me? And I'm like, sure. How do you want to die? So it's a fun little thing, and people enjoy seeing the nods to them in there. So I do it a lot, actually.
So the other one I wanted to ask you about was Reese in Destroying Worlds. What was the story behind that one? Or was that just a nod to Michael Biehn's character?
It was just a nod to Michael Biehn. And I don't want to give the spoiler alert about the card, but I wrote that card as a joke, thinking Freely was going to be like, no, write something. I think his agenda was, what I wrote was very interesting in there. And why are you still reading this and stuff like that? And they kept it, and they keep a lot of the fun things like that. Like I wrote this visceral scene in Heart of Darkness, which is pretty disgusting. And then at the end of it, I wrote, okay, maybe the writer has problems. And I just put that in there as a laugh for Nils and Thomas, and they left it in the book. So, I don't know if they did it on purpose or accidental, but I've had a lot of people contact me and be like, "Oh my God, the writer does have problems, clearly." So it's a lot of fun being able to do this.
Yeah. I'm just going to jump back up to one of the earlier questions. This one's from Baron Snowhead. We talked a lot about you being involved in many, many different IPs. What universe would you love to write a game in? What's the franchise that's screaming out for an RPG adventure, do you think?
That doesn't have one yet?
That doesn't have one yet, yeah.
Well, I mean, I really love Westworld and Raised by Wolves.
Ooh,
Battlestar Galactica, The Thing. You know, I think that there's lots of potential in all these properties. You know, so I don't know if I'll be able to make these things happen, but it's on my list. So.
And we had one from Sean TW. Alien is such a massive franchise. Was there one particular movie, novel, or even Dark Horse comic that you drew particular inspiration from?
We were discussing Earth War earlier before the show. And I always really liked Earth War as well. It's there's a certain bleakness to those early Dark Horse Alien comics before they were in color. Like, because you know, once they got color, I almost felt like it took away some of the life out of them, because it just the tone was so dark, and I really liked the way those were handled. What do you call it? I am a big fan of Alien 3, the assembly cut version. I like the theater version, but the assembly cut, I think it's called the special edition now, since they actually brought the people back in to do the voiceovers again. But that movie, I feel like it would have done a lot better if it had come out like that rather than being truncated. It gets a bum rap a lot. But I also, I mean, I think it's clear from the way I work things in. I really also love Prometheus, but I think Prometheus also suffers from editing, being chopped down. And there was supposed to be an extended version of Prometheus, which never saw the light of day. But I've seen all the scenes that were supposed to be in there, and with it put back together, I think that some of the problems people have with it they'd have no problem with it whatsoever. It's just the funny thing is that the prequel stuff, while some fans hate it so much, it opens the biggest doors for the role-playing stuff. The Black Goo is got so much opportunity to it, and I've had some of my favorite endorsements from fans are it was Chariot of the Gods redeems the Alien prequels. You know, so I don't think they need a redeeming, but I do appreciate, you know, them. And I took what was there and I found a way to use it in a way that might appeal to people who weren't getting it before. So
there's a lot of stuff there with Prometheus. There's like, for anyone who, like us, who grew up with Aliens and the rest, and then when Prometheus came out, even in the trailer, they showed us the Navigator. So when you saw that in Alien 1, there was this alien in that kind of weird horseshoe contraption.
The thing that's behind me.
Yes, that thing. And it looked like it had a face hugger on its face, and then we find out it's not. It's like the spacesuit, it's the gas mask. That was great, because it showed that someone's gone back kind of 20, 30 years and gone, well, what is this thing? We get an answer. And then in the same breath, I'm going to mention the Prometheus donut run, where you got Charlize Theron, and they're both running away from a thing it's like, run the other way, just run.
Okay, and I got words for that, because I guarantee you, when you were in an adrenaline situation, you're not thinking about that.
Yep.
Psychologically, when we are afraid, we run in a straight line, because our minds say, well, the straight line is
the fastest way.
It's the fastest way to get somewhere, right?
Yeah.
You know, the joke is go serpentine. But but yeah, no, it's like it's easy. I think that's one of the things that frustrates me a lot because like I put myself, I immerse myself in a movie. Okay, I think I try to put myself in what would I do in that situation. I don't sit there thinking, well, why aren't they doing this? You know, I see people in real life do stupid things, all the time. At the risk of being political in any way, shape, or form, people complain about why do they take their helmets off on an alien planet, and I'm like, well, we can't even keep our masks on during a pandemic, so it's easy to sit back and judge when you got a beer in your hand and you're on your couch with your fly open and this person is running for their lives,
Yeah.
So I really don't have a problem with that. I never have, and I've always think that things like that give it a bum rap. But...
There is. Go on, Steve.
I was going to say, again, about something you said earlier, do you think Prometheus draws most of its criticism from the fact it does answer questions? Because Alien is a lot about the unknown.
I think part of the problem is that. I'm sorry, let me get some snacks real quick. Okay. It answers questions, but it raises more questions in the process. Okay. So for some fans, well, it was going to give us answers and it didn't really give us answers, and that pisses them off. For others, it pisses them off that why you're even going here in the first place. And I think that if the third film ever gets done, I think it'll make things a lot clearer. Something I like to bring up a lot is the birth of the alien, the creation of the alien. Did David create the alien, or has it been around forever? Okay. Well, there's different ways to look at this. Okay. It's possible that the legends of the alien are really about the protomorph, the thing from Prometheus, and that thing's been around forever and the alien hasn't. It's also possible that David was recreating something that he found in the lab, because that literally is what the script had. Yeah. And it wasn't until they were on the set that Ridley decided, let's shoot this ambiguous so we can leave it up in the air and figure out what we're doing it later. And everybody's like targeted, oh, David made the alien. Well, did he or didn't he? Because David, the only person who said that that David made the alien is David, and David is very clearly the unreliable narrator. Yep. David talks out of his ass all the time, and he gets caught doing it. So do we believe that he created this from whole? I think part of David's frustration is that he literally is incapable of creating something original. And that's because the programming just doesn't work that way. And I think that I'm going to claim I did this, so that's why I wrote it in the book. The theories on the aliens creation range from a naturally occurring hive-like species to a bioweapon developed by an ancient culture to a mad creation, the mad creation of an insane android. But nobody knows for sure. Now, I've just given you, this is clearly somewhere in this range is correct, but part of the mystery is the alien. I'm not going to tell you in the book, and you can pick what you want there yourself.
Yeah.
And sometimes something I tell GMs a lot is to, and I tried to explain this about the border bombers in the Colonial Marines book, and I don't want to get too much into that because people are still playing the campaign there. Tell people, make people think, oh, it's clearly this. And then when you've got them convinced it's that, show them something that makes it, wait, maybe it wasn't that. And that's how you keep the mystery in the game. Yeah. Keep everybody guessing, and that guessing thing is something that they've hooked into in the Titan novels that are coming up.
Right.
What the hell is going on? What the hell is this thing? And I've had people contact me and say, "Is this really this?" And I'd say, "Well, I'm not going to tell you. Maybe I don't even know. Maybe it hasn't been approved what it is yet by licensing." So we developed a story that it could go different ways, give you different things, show you different things, and in the end you'll find out what it is, maybe. But if not, it's alien, it's the unknown. We're not supposed to get it all. So
talking about IPs and obviously you own the Canon Bible for Fox, I mean, Is that a process that you just have to accept some people saying things like, if Ridley Scott turns around and says, this is such, you've now got to take that as canon, or does it have to go through some sort of, as you say, licensing process and be agreed? Is there a grand council of people that decide what goes in the canon?
So Ridley Scott doesn't look at Bibles unless he's written them.
Right.
Okay. He doesn't, and nor should he necessarily have to. Okay. I mean, we have an amazing creator here who got this thing on its feet in the first place.
Yeah.
My job is not to say, hey, Ridley, that's not canon. No, my job is to say, how am I going to make this canon now?
Well, so flip that question in.
Yeah.
What's the hardest thing you've ever had to do that with, and not just in necessarily Alien, but across the other IPs that you look after? What's the worst thing you've had to shoehorn in?
It didn't come to be, but the hardest thing was Fox telling me, hey, Blomkamp's Alien 5, we want to fit into the timeline without erasing Alien 3 or 4. And I was like, good luck with that. I could not figure out how we were going to make this work. And I'm like, okay, so some kind of quantum explosion which changed the time. No, that's not like really Alien. That's Star Trek. Maybe, you know, I was just like, how are we going to do this? How are we going to do this? And then it went away, and I was like, okay, good. It's, you know, it's if they were like, it's an alternate timeline, but they didn't want to do that because at the time, and these people are not there anymore, whoever I was dealing with at the time, because it, you know, now it's Disney, it was Fox then. But at the time they were thinking, well, we don't want to stop VHS and well, not VHS, DVD and Blu-ray sales of Alien 3 and 4. So we don't want to say they don't count anymore. So how do we make this still work? You know, and I don't like, unless you're talking about a complete reboot, I don't like this revisionist, you know, oh, we're gonna pretend that didn't happen. But if I were to do it now, I would do it exactly the way I do it in the role-playing game with Barroom Canon. To explain what Barroom Canon is for anyone who doesn't know, it's something I came up with that it's every story about Alien that you've ever heard is out there, but maybe you heard it from a guy who was talking to another guy that was overheard by a drunk guy at a bar who told you. So there's some kernel of truth in every single one of these stories, but what part of it is true? So with Alien 3 for Gibson, since they just released the Alien 3 Gibson thing last year or the year before, I think it was both years because the novelization was last year, it was based on different draft. In the game, it clearly says that Anchor Point Station, the first Anchor Point Station, blew up in 2179, which was the same year as Aliens. It says that it was under weird, bizarre circumstances, and someone set the reactor to blow up. It says that the UPP station, Rodina station, also blew up, was also destroyed, but that was torpedoed by UPP ships themselves. So they destroyed their own thing. So you could say, oh, well, I can say that Alien 3 happened if I want because that happened. But I never said that Ripley was there. So we have reports that Ripley was on Fury 161, but is that the false lead and the other one is true? You know, it's up to you in your campaign now.
Yeah.
And I would have handled it like that. Like some people say that she did this. Some people said this is what happened, you know? And that's the safest thing. And I learned that from working on Planet of the Apes. Because the people with my Planet of the Apes novels, overall great reception, but there's always those few people who are like, how dare you say how this happened? This has been around for 50 years. And who are you to just come in and make sense of the timeline suddenly? And I'm like, well, I'm the guy they paid to do it. Mm-hmm. And I'm the guy who is, you know, taking the risks with my career to get here, never having a 9-to-5, never knowing, am I going to have to be a limo driver again? You know, I'm the guy who put in the hours for it. And so and even if I did put in all those hours, if I wasn't hired to do it, I wouldn't be the guy. So that's it. And at the end of the day, it's not me who makes those decisions. It is the license holder who makes those decisions. So, and what I did with the Planet of the Apes thing is, since there's different timelines in Planet of the Apes implied anyway, I assigned this is in this timeline, this is in this. Because they specifically say in some of those movies that time is a highway with an infinite number of lanes. You change your lane, you change your destiny. So I worked around those principles, and there's some people who feel like, no, it's all one timeline. It's all this. It's like, well, the beauty of the infinite timeline thing is that maybe it all did happen in one of those infinite timelines instead of being spread out. But that was just too definitive to some fans. And so that's when I came up with the idea of borrowing canon.
Did you have a lot of passion for Planet of the Apes when you went after that IP in the first place? Yeah, absolutely. It is one of my favourites as well, actually, even more so than Alien.
One of the things I think that's great about Planet of the Apes is how it can, depending on how wise or old or informed you are, it means a completely different thing. When I was a kid, Planet of the Apes came out on TV, and my mom was like, "Oh, let's watch this," and I was like, "Okay," and I was like, "Monkeys on horseback with guns, I'm in," And then I'm a teenager, and I'm like, social political commentary on racism, I'm in. It's like completely different, but it's the same damn thing.
Yeah.
And that's beautiful. That a property that can appeal to kids and to this and to our adults, and they get something completely different out of it, but both are true. It is monkeys on horsebacks with gun, and it is a social political commentary. That's amazing, and we need more stuff like that out there. I think, instead of just, this is for a 5-year-old, this is for this is for a 75-year-old. let's have things that work on multiple levels.
Yeah, because there's nothing I enjoy more than watching things with my kids.
Do you really? Yeah.
And there's not a lot you can do that with now, because there is like a cliff face when you get past a certain age rating on movies. It's not really acceptable for them to watch.
Yeah, Westworld is probably not a good idea to be watching for 6 or 7-year-old kids, right?
No. I forgot what I was going to say now. So on your Instagram feed, there was a picture of you standing on the beach, holding the picture from the end of Planet of the Apes, where he goes around the headland and sees the Statue of Liberty in the water. Is that your hand holding that picture?
No, that was a fan who actually went to the actual beach.
Right.
And did that. Yeah, no, that's funny. I was like, what is he talking about? Yeah, that was a long time ago. Yeah. No, he found the right exact spot, and he just lined it up. So, which I thought was great.
That was a good picture. That was really good. Right, we've got to the hour. We haven't really talked about Heart of Darkness very much. So Heart of Darkness is a new Free League cinematics scenario for the Alien role-playing game, written by Andrew. It is coming out this summer, I believe. It's on pre-order now. You can get a pre-order copy from Free League, and there is a link popping up in chat every now and again.
And just to also point out there, if you do pre-order the book, which is not just a book, it is one of these kind of skinny. It'll be a skinny box set. It is going to be lovely.
And really packs those things with value. You got a lot of good stuff.
Yeah, these are really nice. I love these. I mean, I've always been a fan of box sets.
Player maps in them are great. I think they're really, really good.
But I love this because it didn't kind of. They don't ramp up the price. It's a nice. It's a box. It's like the size of a book, but you get the soft covers in there. You get some cards, some handouts, character sheets. You get a lot in there.
Fold-out map, the big ass fold-out map. Yep.
There is so much good stuff in there. But when you pre-order, you get a PDF copy almost instantly. So you get the book essentially. So you can start reading.
The physical books are coming in June, I think, sometime this summer, and that's because of COVID delays.
Various printing, publishing, shipping delays. Yeah. Which we've come to expect now, so.
Paper shortages and backups for a lot of companies and everything. I realized because of COVID and everything, and I've been working nonstop since I went freelance again, because the awards for Alien have allowed me to just work freelance. But I realized the other day that I have 10 books coming out this year.
Blimey. I
have like 25 books to my career, and 10 of those come out this year. So it's like crazy delays and things. It's just nuts.
Could you? So I'm gonna pivot slightly. Could you do something? So the author Brandon Sanderson.
Sanderson, yeah.
He's done some fantastic fantasy books, and he's recently, or it's on right now. He is doing a Kickstarter.
Yes, that's made a ton of money.
$30 million.
Insane. Insane.
So how about that? How about the Alien story trilogy, Bonanza, whatever it is, write the story that fans like us want you to write. The bit that fills in the gaps. Give us that. Do it as a Kickstarter. You'll make 50 million easy.
Well, okay, so when you do a license, you don't get to decide we're just doing a Kickstarter.
Oh, okay.
That's up to the IP holder. Okay. And some IP holders are back to Kickstarter model. Some of them look at it as, well, can't you afford to do this on your own? Why am I giving you this license if you can't afford to do it on your own? It's a controversial thing. As more Kickstarters do money like his does, though, people are starting to realize that I can't give details, but there's a license that a friend of mine is working on, and they were like, absolutely no Kickstarters. And then they did some research, and they're like, oh, maybe we'll let you guys do a Kickstarter for this one. So it's opening up. But there's the first thing that people think is Kickstarters for poor people who can't afford to get things started. And that's not it at all. It's an amazing promotion tool. Do people who couldn't, it is totally also a tool for people who can never get their product out otherwise.
Yes.
But at the same time, like with Magnetic, with the Carbon Gray Kickstarter, we were committed to doing that already. The book was mostly done already when we went to the Kickstarter. The Kickstarter was, hey guys, this exists. Look at this world.
Yeah.
And didn't do shabby. Did I think $140,000 for that Kickstarter? So and that was their first gaming thing. Kickstarter is very useful. But again, it just like I don't dictate canon. No one even freely can't dictate what's going to go if it's a license. Just because it's a license, they don't own it. We license it from the owner. It's but it is a good idea.
Why not? That's the retirement. That's sorted. Really. That's that done. Go out on a bang. 50 million. Wow. So as Steve said, we're kind of coming towards the end. Just a bit more about.
I have a question. I'm burning to get this one out.
Okay.
So, Heart of Darkness is continuation of Chariot of the Gods and Destroy World. So they'll deal with the same overarching story arc. So
different characters in each one. Characters in each one, but it's like if your players have played the other ones, you see what's happening.
Yeah. So. Yeah. Is Heart of Darkness the end of that particular story arc, and what's coming next? Is this a new thread, or are we continuing with a slightly different theme but following the same? I don't want to spoil it, so I'm not gonna.
Okay. So you have read it, right?
Yes.
Okay. So we need to talk in non-spoiler ways here. Yes. But I will tell you this: it is the end of that trilogy,
right?
But the story, basically, what that trilogy did was set up a brand new threat in the Alien universe. That is going to have a massive effect on things, hopefully.
Okay.
So the good news we can take from that is we've not yet seen the end of Alien RPG. We will go into another.
No.
How many years do you think we've got of this? Another couple of years?
I don't. That's above my pay grade. But I can tell you that we've been working on the Building Better Worlds Colonial Handbook for Colonists. That's going to be like the Marine Operations Manual was. And then there'll be another cinematic. And then we'll probably do a Space Trucker campaign book. What do you call it? And we're doing all these little fun things in between, like these things in the Titan novels. So we're trying to get more stuff out there. I tend to think epically with this stuff, and it makes a lot of work because you can't just do whatever you want to license. Like Disney has people sitting there who do what I used to do. I can't do it on this product because I write this product, but they sit there and say, oh wait, what is this? Why is this like this? And they need explanations. I 9 times out of 10, I can answer that question in a way that makes them say, oh, okay, that's cool, because I know the language at this point. I've been the guy who asked those questions to another licensor. But when we're doing moving and shaking things like the epic stories we've done in here, which could affect the entire universe and the timeline and stuff like that, and then working with people like video game companies and Titan to keep it all coherent, we're talking about big things that need to be all worked out and plans and whatnot. So it's anything but the one trick pony is what it comes down to.
Yeah.
Again, I'm not trying to be spoilery. So, okay. So you will find out more about what happens in Heart of Darkness in the next book as well.
Cool.
And anyone who's read it knows exactly what I'm talking about and is probably excited to hear this.
Yes, I am. Yeah. And what about world outside of Free League and Alien RPG? What have you got coming up next?
Several books for the Terminator coming out. I think that the PDFs will be shipping soon. What I mean by shipping, being distributed to the Kickstarters. And I think the books are supposed to be in, and don't quote me on this, but I think June they'll be in stores. And I have another big Kickstarter project that I cannot announce yet that's going to be coming in July. So if you guys want me back, I would love to talk about that then.
Yeah,
Yes.
we're actually doing one tomorrow actually for a UK publishing couple we're doing they launched one on Tuesday. This is their 8th Kickstarter. So tomorrow night we're doing a live kind of Kickstarter party, just to kind of they've already hit their target. So now it's just
awesome.
Yeah, now they're doing their stretch goals. So we're going to be doing that. So if you want to come back, we'd love to have you back, talk about the new project and do the same thing.
Appreciate it. Yeah.
Fantastic.
I also have a couple other licenses I'm working on that unfortunately I'm not allowed to talk about yet because the press releases have to go out. I'm very busy. There's a lot of stuff coming from me right now. Which is why I'm going to try and take a vacation next week and just sit at a pool somewhere warm.
I was going to ask, do you ever have time to just... How do you relax? Because we watch these things, we play these games, and that's for us is a hobby.
Yeah.
What do you do? Do you like NASCAR racing? Adrenaline junkie? What do you do?
I go free climbing on Mount Everest. No. I love watching a lot of streaming shows like the Star Trek shows and Raised by Wolves, and I love Curb Your Enthusiasm. Like I want to laugh, or I want to be terrified, or I want the feels. These strong emotions is what I want and what I view. I love the beach more than anything. I want to move back. I lived in Pensacola, Florida for a year, and I didn't get to appreciate as much because that was the only time I was like actually super unemployed, not because of a pandemic, it was half that year was about how am I going to get my life in order. And then I wound up getting, because the work I did there, I wound up getting the Predator Bible, and eventually became senior development editor for Lionforge Animation, nice. Which moved me to St. Louis. And I feel like I would be a lot less tense if I could just, hey, I'm going down the beach now, and I'm going to walk around the beach and come up with some ideas. So that's. I love to travel. I love to do conventions. I'm actually going to be doing a lot of conventions this year. I'm signing up with Bard's Tower. I don't know if you guys have heard of them. They bring groups of authors to conventions to sign their books. So I'm going to be doing a tour with them. I love travel. I love talking to fans. I'm a nerd. I'm a nerd who likes the beach. That's what it comes down to.
Fantastic. Steve, anything else from you?
No, because otherwise we'll end up going on for another hour.
I mean, it's up to you guys. If you need to close it, if you want to talk some more, we're good too. However it works for you.
See, now you're teasing. Now we're getting somewhere. I
Well,
have to talk because.
I'll tell you right now if you want to stay on, because I was under the impression this was a 2-hour thing. I didn't know it was a 1-hour thing.
Oh, it's a 1 hour, but yeah. Well, let's let's get into some more of it.
All right, if you want to dig in, we can.
So, go on, Steve.
Well, let's talk about Alien 4 because.
Do we have to?
You've answered my question. So we won't be seeing any of that turn up in
well, no, it's not. Okay, so here's the thing. It doesn't matter if I like it or not. It's canon.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you look in the Colonial Operations Manual, I put the Betty, the Mantis ship. They literally say in the movie that it's a 200-year-old ship. And if you do the math, hey, that means it was designed about this time. So I was able to slip it in. But there was talks when we first started, when are we going to set this? And most people were saying we should set it after Alien 4. And I was like, no. There's so much more in the universe to work with if we set it after 3. Just the whole idea. And that the first thing I thought about was like, I wanted to bring the UPP in. Okay. I decided I wanted to do that from the beginning because I thought the concept was fantastic. And this is before they were bringing back Gibson's Alien 3. So I think they said that what I did in the core book is the first actually canon reference for Union of Progressive Peoples. But the political ramifications of what was going on in Aliens seemed very interesting to me, because suddenly you have this colony that's been wiped off the face of the planet, and Weyland-Yutani's not going to want to take responsibility for what happened here. So let's blame that other country who nobody likes, and then is this going to start a war? And I just thought of all the things that could build out of that, and we've been playing on it ever since. So and the whole idea that came up in the Weyland-Yutani report of Robert Morris's Star Beast book, and I thought about how could that start a cult, and it's just the job of anyone working on licensed products is, if you really want to do it right, it's not, well, I have this idea and I'm just gonna put my idea in here and let someone else figure it out. No, it's like, hey, there's this here and this here and this here. Can I connect the dots by doing this? This sort of suggests this, but nobody's ever touched this part. Why haven't they? Boom. And that's how I approach all these things. I have my own things, my own properties. One of them, Critical Millennium, was one of them that came out 10 years ago, where my own batshit ideas I put in. But if I have a batshit idea that I really want to express, I'm not going to jam it into Alien unless it belongs there. I'm going to hold that for my thing, and I'm going to put something that belongs in Alien now. So, and I think a lot of people this is why you'll see a movie series, and you're like, well, wait, this doesn't really fit with what we said before, because the director really didn't want to do that movie. They wanted to do their own movie, and they said, well, I've been offered this, so I might as well take this and jam my thing in here.
Yeah.
And it's a disservice to their own idea, just as much as this is a disservice to the franchise. In regards to Alien 4, the tone is all wrong.
Yeah.
Great director, great cast, but this weird dark comedy thing doesn't really fit for Alien. Mm-hmm. So it's perplexing. It could have been more than it was, because there's good concepts in there, and it just didn't work out the way it should have, unfortunately.
Do you think the publisher's desire to set it after 4 is just because it gives them more creative freedom, that you effectively starting with a clean slate in terms of the timeline?
Yeah, probably. I just don't think that it would have been recognizable as much, and there's 200 years of space in there, and while there's a comment that one of the guys makes in Alien 4 about how Ellen Ripley almost killed this thing 200 years ago, right? Well, I mean, from 200 years ago, all I have is history books. All I have is things that were said there. If things were not in those books, how do I know really what happened? But people see a movie and he says, no, he said 200 years ago was the last time this thing was. Well, that's what he knows.
Yeah.
Okay. He could be wrong because he's just a human being, you know? Not everything, just because we never saw Captain Kirk go to the bathroom doesn't mean that there's no bathrooms on the Enterprise. You know, let's logically think there probably was one. And just because if someone says 200 years ago, it probably was 197 years ago. But no, he said 200. No, because people just say 200 when they don't want to do the math and figure out it was 197 in 3 months, because we're not all data from Next Generation, you know? So, people read these things too seriously. It's just like David. David says he created the alien. David's also full of a lot of shit. So don't take it for what it's presented as. And those are tools that writers use to lead audiences in places they want them to go, which may not necessarily be what they're going to find out in the end. And that's why I really want Ridley to get the chance to do that third movie. Tangent again, sorry.
Yeah. No, I enjoyed Prometheus. I did enjoy Prometheus. Covenant I probably watched in a wrong environment because I was on a flight, and I never enjoy movies when I watch them on an airplane, so I shouldn't have watched it. But I hope the third movie is made.
Somebody had a question here I just saw. I never understood how you could get any DNA from the vaporized bodies of Ripley and the alien inside her. The DNA comes from the clippings from when she shaved her hair.
Oh, nice.
And it's also from blood that they had on from when what's his face was. It's hair and blood. I think it says it in the novel that's what they used to get her DNA. Wow. And so the alien, technically the alien embryo is a form of the black goo. Alex White's Cold Forge novel discussed this, and we hooked onto that in the role playing game. So whatever it was transforming her body chemistry and transforming parts of organs into the alien that was growing inside her. So that means there was alien DNA in her blood at the time. It's science fiction, folks.
Yeah. That's nice. I didn't know that one actually. That's interesting.
That's why they pay me. That's why they pay me the medium bucks.
Yep.
What's out of the trilogy? What's your favourite movie?
The first one.
The first one.
The original trilogy, yeah, the first one.
Yeah.
I watch it over and over again on a loop. It's in the background while I'm writing Alien. I have the sound down low, but and I have subtitles on. Every time I notice something different.
I guess one of the, I don't know if it was cinematic or groundbreaking or anything, but you had this film that came out in the late 70s, which showed Dallas, the captain, the leading role. And the thing for that is, you get the alien. You've heard all the stories about the cast didn't know the alien was going to burst out his chest.
Yep.
And okay, so now it's a monster movie. We know what this is now. They're going to hunt this thing down. Dallas goes in the vents, the tubes, whatever they are.
Yeah.
You see the jazz hands, as we were talking about, and it's gone. Like, hold on, what film is this? You've just killed the captain. How dare you? What is going on? And then suddenly it's like, well, shit. And then you find out, like, the android. We've been watching the android anyway. The audience is very passive at this point, and you see the android start to go loopy. Then we're into, oh, hold up, what can we trust here? You've then got the like the space truckers. Well, we need to, what weapons can we build? And it's an A-team scenario, right? Let's get anything that we could make lethal on the table. We got some fuel canisters. We got some sharp sticks.
We just needed that 80s montage.
Yeah, exactly. We're gonna MacGyver the crap out of this now before we had MacGyver. And they get wiped out one by one. But it was the whole thing of, well, hold on. It's a sci-fi movie. You've got all these dramatic settings. Then it turns into a monster movie. Then we killed the lead. We killed the hero. Like, what is this? And I don't. We've seen it since. We've seen those kind of films since. We've seen, and then you would have a guest star as a cameo, and like, oh, we've just killed off Will Smith. What happens now? But we've never, at that time, I don't think we'd had anything like that, especially in sci-fi. And I think that was a moment where the music, the soundtrack, which is quite hopeless for me, made sense. It's a bleak story. This does not have a happy ending. And even when we get to the end, Ripley is trying to pick up the cat. She's arguing with the computer. Trying to, like, she sets the destruction. She turns it off. It won't stop. She's like, what can I do? I mean, even after, and one of the exhausting things is, and we see that in Aliens 2 as well. No matter what she does, the alien is always a step ahead. She gets out she's in the pod. The alien is there, and then she has to eject it. And it was just, it's exhausting. And then that fight, and one of the bits I loved, we're coming back to the game, Alien RPG, you have that sign off where it says, I am the last surviving member of my crew. And it becomes a very, got goosebumps. It's a very touching moment. There's a role-playing game called 10 Candles. And it reminded me of that moment. And at 10 Candles, at the beginning, you write, you kind of say who you are, and it's your farewell note. Okay. And by the time you get to the end of the game, in Alien, you're like, can you, like, as a GM, can you read this card, please? If you, it says, my name is da da da. I am the last surviving member. And it was just, wow. It was a fantastic moment that puts you in your own Alien movie at that point. And that was, I love that bit.
That's one of the things with the cinematics. I was talking before about how I have a tendency to go epic with the storyline. I look at them as movies. I mean, they say, oh, it's like a movie, but I'm like, no, it's going to be like a movie. It's going to be movie level events. If you want to play a campaign, then you're playing TV series level events that build up to a climax, like a streaming series would. But this is the blockbuster. I'm getting you in the seats in the theater. Yeah. So there's got to be some crazy shit in here for you to want to do this, especially since this is not, you're not trying to keep your character alive. I mean, you're playing characters and taking on different roles and having fun with it. And this is, again, what baffles some people that they don't understand, but it's like, I have seen people who've never role played before get a little description for Hammer, one of the Marines that's in Destroy Worlds, and they, oh my God, they just own that. It's like, I've never role played before, and they told me 2 lines about this guy, and now it's like an actor. What's my motivation? You know, and then they got that motivation, and they just take it to some extreme. And you're like, wow, this guy came out of his shell and was able to do this, and it's because of this agenda we give them. When instead, if he would just said, "Here's, make a character and do something with it," they may not. I don't know what to do with it, you know. And some people say, "Well, you're restricting us with this agenda," and other people are like, "No, you're giving me freedom to interpret this agenda, and I'm bringing my imagination to the table. How would I do this?" And also with the agendas, if you don't want to do the agenda, you don't have to do the agenda. It's just, we've built the mission to play off these agendas. And the people who get the most experience, the most pleasant experience about it, are the people who don't try to alter every step of the adventure. I don't like this creature, so I'm going to change the creature. Okay, well, I actually balanced it for that creature. If you change it to the other one, you're going to have some problems later on in the story. Feel free to do it, but you're better off making a new story with that creature. You know, it's like there's a lot of thought goes into this stuff to give you the maximum. And I've just noticed that fans are like, well, I didn't think it was that great. And there's not a lot of fans that get this, but you see every now and you say, oh, I didn't think it was that great. Well, what'd you do? Well, I changed this, and this, so it's not the same thing anymore. So how do you judge that then? But the people who are like, oh, I'm going to take this and run with it, are the ones that are loving what's going on with it. It's just a totally different experience than I'm going to try to kill this dragon and take his treasure.
I mean, the way it's written as well, try not to spoil it, but the way it's written as well, you've got the acts, but then you've got the events as well. The events are the way to give the GM a bit of a way to kick the players up the butt, so to speak, and get them to get back on track. Which is I like the way they're laid out. I like the way that gives you that freedom. And at the end of Heart of Darkness is just this chilling little one-liner in the box that just explains what whole thing's about. It's just, it's. I think that captures a lot of, in essence, what the Aliens film are for me, which is it's just about survival. And what you were saying, Dave, in your description earlier, I take a slightly different look at it. It's like the whole film is just about a fight for survival. The alien is trying to survive, the human's trying to survive, and it's
well, the cat just doesn't give a shit, though.
No, the cat doesn't exactly. The cat, whoever survives just gets to inherit the cat. That's the end of it. And the chilling bit is that humans can't. Generally in films, you're expecting somebody on the good team to survive, or the humans side, and that expectation gets taken away in the movie, and that's where the horror element, I think, for me comes from. That's connecting with a movie, and that is something that is seen through in these adventures as well. Is the expectation to survive is gone, so approach it that way, and I think that's why a lot of D&D players, as you said, don't take to it as well, because they are expecting to play the hero.
I want to preface this, well, not preface this, but whatever after this after yeah, okay. I'm a writer, not a speaker. I GM'd Dungeons and Dragons for 22 years, so I love Dungeons and Dragons. I'm not saying anything bad about that at all. I'm just saying that people just who play that, who their sole experience is that role playing, seem to have had trouble grasping what's going on here. Call of Cthulhu people have no problem grasping what's going on here because the insanity rules and whatnot. I wanted to say something. I can't remember who it was. I saw in the Facebook group for Free League's Alien RPG. Somebody posted last night that their players were using strips of flesh off the captain's dead body to try to lure the cat. And mission accomplished. They've gone off the deep end already.
Anything for survival. Oh dear. Yeah.
They've already gone off the deep end. It's fantastic. And my cat would go for the flesh. My cat chews on me when he wants my attention. I don't know if you can see the marks or not. Over there.
I mean, that's written in the cat's bio in Heart of Darkness as well, isn't it?
Yeah. And his signature item, I don't know if you remember what his signature item was.
I can't actually, no.
His crusty butt.
Oh, no, I don't remember that.
That's a thing too, unfortunately. I've immortalized my cat in this game.
Right, we're going to wrap up. It's 10:30, so we're going to wrap up there. So thank you for joining us. I'm going to do the little bit of rollout, and then what I think I'd like to do is just read a part of the Heart of Darkness blurb, just to finish it off. So I'll do the outro, I think it's called, and then I'll read that, and then we'll wrap up. So thank you for joining us, Andrew. It's been a pleasure. Thank you for putting up with us, quizzing you, and thank you for being great fun, and giving us some inside knowledge as well. It's been a real pleasure having you.
Thanks for having me. I had a great time.
Good.
So thank you for joining us, everyone. This video will be available on demand on Twitch for a couple of weeks, but if you want to head over to YouTube, it will be up on YouTube sometime this week. And as I said at the start, we are looking to try and grow our YouTube audience. So if you can subscribe, click on the bell, you'll get alerted whenever we release new content. We will be back here tomorrow night with our Midnight Tower Kickstarter stream. We'll be celebrating their successful Kickstarter, but also pushing the stretch goals. What I'm not actually sure what it is that they're releasing. Dave, you'll have to do that one for me.
Which one?
Midnight Tower. What book are they releasing?
It's a wedding invitation to an unexpected wedding. There we go. It's based on D&D meets Jane Austen?
Yeah.
There we go.
So that is tomorrow. We're not streaming on Saturday, but we are doing something on Saturday offline as part of our new project that will be coming soon. So I won't talk about that announcement, but I will tease it slightly. And other than that, we are back. We're back next week, Friday for Scarlet Citadel. And then Malevolence is the following week on the 8th. Not the 8th, the 9th of April. So, with that, I will stop rambling on and actually finish this stream. And I'm going to read you a blurb from the Heart of Darkness. And as I say, the link to the pre-order is available in chat if you want to go and have a look at it. It's £24 for pre-order for physical copy. It will be out roughly around the middle of this year, hopefully in time for UKGE, so you can get your 3 in a row in terms of awards, which would be great and thoroughly deserved as well. But if you do pre-order, you will get a PDF copy of the box. So you get the adventure, you get the cards, you get the handouts, you get the maps, all in PDF form, and they come through about 5 minutes after your pre-order is complete. So you don't even have to wait. So without further ado, the company found a new life form, and they want you to study it. Their offers uncharacteristically generous. You catalogue this organism, determine how they can use it, and bring it back so they can slap their patent on it. Fairly routine stuff. In exchange, they'll hook you up with a cushy corporate head position, secure you a book deal, and make sure the institute of your choice gives you tenure. Did I mention the money? There's a lot of it. Simple survey, sample, and analysis job. Seemed too good to be true. Well, of course it is. They neglected to tell you this alien life was found by a work crew on a lonely space station sitting on the razor edge of a black hole. They also forgot to mention that the station crew is a prison workforce composed of murderers, thieves, and robot guards who wrangle them. This isn't some minor singularity. It's devouring its sister stars in a cacophony of swirling plasma, gamma rays, and death. Extremophile or not, what the hell can live in all that? Whatever it is, it's got to be different from anything we've encountered before. Something strange, something alien. That is the end. So thank you for joining us, and we'll be streaming again soon.
Thanks for having me.
Everybody, we'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.